Let's call ourselves to order. Meeting of the West Newbury Board of Selectmen, January 21st. It's 7:13. This meeting is being, not 13, whatever. I can't tell time, but that's all right. This meeting is being broadcast on local cable TV and recorded for rebroadcast on the local cable channels and on the internet. First, a really good piece of news. It's been out there, but we'll formally announce it at the Board of Selectmen. The town received a $1 million Mass Works infrastructure grant. This will be used to help repair the Middle Street Bridge. West Newbury was one of the few towns that received the maximum $1 million award. That was again the maximum amount. The town would like to thank everybody involved in getting this accomplished. Angus Jennings, Wayne Emerald, the DPW director, for help putting the grant, doing a lot of the legwork on the grant. Senator Bruce Tarr, Representative Mirror, Governor Charlie Baker, the city of Newburyport, all the cooperation from people that sent letters in supporting the grant, and so this is great news. It'll go a long way towards getting the bridge finally fixed. Go ahead.
I just lost my power. I have a question. The question has been asked of me. I know it's kind of preliminary, but with some preliminary cost estimates of around $2.5 million, what now would be an estimate of the town's contribution now on that, now that we got that, please?
So the total estimated costs that have been out there include all of the design, engineering work, and as you know, the city of Newburyport initially got a $500,000 small bridge DOT grant. So that $0.5 million that was secured early on counts toward that overall project cost. So with a now total of $1.5 million in grant funding that's been received, that leaves a gap of about $1 million, maybe $1.1 million. So as you know, we're actively working with the city of Newburyport and on a cost share. So it would be.
I guess when you said that the $500,000 that Newburyport counts towards that, I thought that they had already spent about $500,000 on that, on the work done to this.
No, they did not. No. Actually, they've spent of the $500,000. About half of that is for engineering, and about half of that's toward construction.
So do you have an idea how much they spent for the sort of the preliminary design?
I did. I got a number from them. I got it 2 months ago, and it's not fresh in my mind. But I know that it was less than $100,000.
Oh, okay. So there's
there's
over $400,000 remaining out of it.
Correct. Well, as of
maybe
months ago. But yeah, I mean the important point of that is of the $500,000, roughly half of that is going to be available toward construction. So the $250,000 is intended to cover the design and permitting costs, roughly.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's some good news. Another announcement: nomination papers are available for the municipal election, the town election, which this year is going to be May 4th. Deadline to request nomination papers for signatures is March 11th. There continue to be FY20 committee appointments, openings that people can look at under the volunteer part on the town website. And we are also we're going to be needing an interim appointment for someone on the Parks and Recreation Commission until that place can be filled at the town election. First item of business is a petition to do underground wiring, a National Grid at 19 Hilltop Circle.
Public hearing, right?
Yes, so I'd make a motion to open the public hearing on that.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Hi, come on up.
John Butler, National Grid.
Just make it turn green, that's all.
You drew the lucky,
If you
you drew
push-
the lucky
yeah,
straw tonight, didn't
hold
you?
up.
Yeah.
You just have to push that little push thing, and it'll turn green.
Might have to hold it down for a couple seconds.
There you go.
And drag it a little closer to you, that's all. It's not for us, it's for the television, yeah.
Petitions to install about 196 feet of conduit in the public taking from existing facilities to serve the electrical needs of the town's new water tower. The installation of the portion petitioned for will be installed by the company's contractor under the supervision of a representative of National Grid. The restoration of all excavated areas will be the responsibility of that contractor. At the finish of it, National Grid will take ownership of it and maintain the facilities going forward to the property line of the right-of-way to the tower.
Is there anybody here from the neighborhood or anything like that that wants to speak on behalf of this?
I did talk with Wayne about this, and I think that it's in the right of way, but it's actually not going to be, according to Wayne, there wasn't going to be any asphalt actually removed. Do you think that's right, or?
It will be outside the driven surface, I believe, as long as a successful dig safe can be had there. There's already secondary facilities there now
Okay.
that feed homes. But to get from the transformer, it will cross the driveway at number 19.
Okay.
They were aware of the public meeting?
Yes.
Kind of rhetorical.
Yeah, public hearing notices were mailed to all the butters.
It was a rhetorical question, but I just want to get it out there so people know that we're doing our due diligence. And then that contractor responsible to make sure that that driveway is put back exactly the way they found it and as best they possibly can and so forth and so on?
It's up to the town's contractor, actually, to restore whatever excavated areas they have in installing the conduit.
How does that work? Say it's up to the town's contractor, so we have a separate contractor that the town is paying for? This is,
The installation is included, as far as I know, in the contract for the water tower.
okay, okay. Got it, thanks.
So they're installing all the conduit
Okay.
that they have for a contract.
Right, no, that clarifies it, thanks.
But what's in the public taking,
Yeah.
we own going forward
Okay.
and maintain.
So do we just close the public hearing, right? Do we have to vote on this or what do we do?
Yeah, we have to vote vote on this, and then we close the public hearing.
Approve or disapprove, I guess.
Yeah.
So make a motion that we approve, as stated by the gentleman from National Grid.
A second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
A second?
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry to keep you waiting.
Yeah. Tough crowd, huh?
The funny thing is, the next item is also, it's confusing because it's also Hilltop. The other thing was Hilltop Circle, this is Hilltop Securities.
Thanks a lot.
So, the The town is borrowing 1.1 million related to the two water projects, the tower and work at the well field. This is to approve or disapprove general obligation bond anticipation notes dated January 24th. And so that's what we're going to be voting on now. Angus, do you want to explain this a little more?
Sure, yeah, our Hilltop Securities went out, we've been working with them for the last couple of months to prepare all the paperwork. It was actually quite intensive with the official statement and a lot of things like that. And so they basically go out to the market, they issued bids on interest rates, and you have the results in front of you on page 11 of the packet. And Oppenheimer and Company came in with a low bid on interest rate, and so that would be the recommended selection of the draft form of motion in front of you would reflect that selection. But Hilltop had recommended, we've been working with them this fall toward anticipated issuance of bonds following the town meeting authorization approved last April. But when it became known that the Soldiers Sailors building had passed and also authorized its debt service, Hilltop strongly recommended we consider doing short-term bond anticipation notes, which would allow us to, roll this short-term borrowing into a larger bond issue when the time comes. So that could be prior to the maturity of the bands, which is July. Or the bands could be at that time with board approval further rolled forward. It all depends on what interest rates are at that time and where we are with the Soldiers Sailors, and whether we're ready to do permanent financing on that or whether we want to stick with the short-term financing.
So these are, I don't know, reading the thing, it's hard to know. So how long is this for?
6 months.
Half a year? Okay,
It looks
okay.
like it's 173 out of 360 days.
Okay.
This is new stuff to me. So the
173 isn't really half, it's sort of
just
just
under
slightly
half a year.
half
Yeah,
a year.
just under
yeah.
half a year. Yeah. So the I'm just trying to understand there's a premium interest and net interest. Where does the premium come from? What's the definition of that premium? Because it looks like the premium is subtracted from the interest to come up
That's
with
what
the
it
net
looks
interest.
like, yeah.
So I'm just trying to understand, what is the premium? Do you know what that means? I don't know what that.
It was explained to me.
Yeah.
The
Okay, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I'm sorry. Yeah.
A while back.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
it looks like it's subtracted from the total interest.
Yeah. It is.
To make that the lowest
clearly is.
interest.
Yeah. I mean, I
yeah.
did the math, and it clearly is.
It works,
So I was
but-
trying to understand
I don't know what
what's
it
the
means.
meaning of the premium, and why does some have it and some not. So these
Mike,
interests.
Mike might have an answer.
Oh, you got an answer to that?
Yeah.
Great. Thanks.
Essentially is that you fix the interest rate,
Yeah.
okay? And then then you take bids
Yeah.
on how much of discount someone will give you off that interest rate. And that's the premium.
Okay.
Okay.
So you have a 2% interest rate, and then you send it out to them. One person says, I'll give you 30,000 off, I'll give you 35,000 off, I'll give
Okay.
you 40,000 off.
Okay.
Instead of changing the interest rate.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Huh.
Just to make it more confusing.
Right. It's advanced motion of Dean's.
Okay, does someone want to make a motion on?
Sure. Yeah, so
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the sale of $1.1 million or 1.75% general obligation bond anticipation notes of the town dated January 24th, 2020, payable July 17th, 2020, to Oppenheimer and Co., Inc., at par and accrued interest, if any, plus the premium of $13.75. I knew it was important to know about that premium. and that in connection with the marketing and sales of the notes, the preparation and distribution of a notice of sale and preliminary official statement dated January 7th, 2020, and a final official statement dated July 14th, 2020, each in said form as may be approved by the town treasurer, be and hereby are ratified, confirmed, approved, and adopted. And further, in the motion, is that the town treasurer and board of selectmen be and hereby are authorized to execute and deliver a significant events disclosure undertaking in compliance with SEC Rule 15C2-12 in such form as may be approved by bond counsel to the town, which undertaking shall be incorporated by reference in the notes for the benefit of the holders of the notes from time to time. And further, that we authorize and direct the town treasurer to establish post-issuance federal tax compliance procedures and continuing disclosure procedures in such forms as the town treasurer and bond counselors deem sufficient, or if such procedures are currently in place, to review and update said procedures in order to monitor and maintain the tax-exempt status of the notes and to comply with relevant securities laws. And further, and finally, that each member of the Board of Selectmen, the town clerk, and the town treasurer be and hereby are authorized to take any and all such actions and execute and deliver such certificates, receipts, or other documents as may be determined by them or any of them to be necessary or convenient to carry into effect the provisions of the foregoing votes.
I didn't get that. Can you do that one more time? Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I do have quite a lot of documents for signature, so I think, Sue, what I'll ask you to do is if you can sign your piece, and then perhaps at the end of the meeting, we'll take the board and the clerk signatures. Just to us, rather than, starting the meeting.
Doesn't it have to be all witness? Don't you have to?
Witness should do it.
Okay. Well, we do, we have to do it all in front, right?
So, yeah, great, everything with yours.
Orange and purple.
But I only put the orange on the top one of the board. There's probably 6 or 7 or 8 documents, and there's 4 copies of each, so, before you leave at the end of the night, we'll make sure that you have
What's that?
signatures.
I don't know. Next item is appointing our new building inspector, Sam Jocelyn, as the ADA coordinator. Come on up, Sam. Welcome. Congratulations on the new job.
Thank you. Welcome aboard. We heard great things. Thank you. I think you maybe did it too much. There you go.
Overly aggressive with the buttons. It's nice to finally get to sit and actually meet the 3 of you,
Yeah.
or at least in one place. I think I've met all of you individually at one point or another, but.
Good to see you.
Do you have any questions of us?
No, so far it's been great. Angus has given me the rundown on how things go. Glenn left the office in nice shape for me, so I haven't had too much trouble digging through it, other than, making a lot of trash by digging. Glenn saved a lot more than I like to save. I'm very much a paper-free office. He was a keep every paper office, so. But we ran things similarly in our operations, so that makes the transition easy. And so far, the people here have been great to work with.
Looking forward to the new high school? Getting down there and getting dirty?
That was the one detriment to the whole.
You can't get rid of it because you're Groveland and West Newbury.
I know, now I got it all. I feel like a lucky guy.
You can't blame it on the other town.
Right, and that was my whole plan all along. I was just rolling, like, it was Glenn's fault, so now it's just all. I'll take it. No, it should be really interesting. A lot of times in the smaller towns, you get in a very, just this repetitive single and 2 family sort of track, and to see something new and different really is interesting and makes the job more exciting.
Yeah.
So,
Different technology.
remind me of that now when we're.
Right, that's right.
When you're out there in the freezing cold.
Exactly.
Okay, how do we, so.
Just make a motion.
Basic motion?
Yeah.
So the ADA coordinator, as I think you know, it is part of the job description for the building inspector.
Mhm.
But where traditionally the board has voted this, you know, I thought we'd put it on the agenda just so the record's clear, but also I thought it'd be a good opportunity for the board to meet Sam
Yeah.
formally.
Great. So, I'd make a motion that, Sam Jocelyn is an ADA coordinator. Term ending, is it June 15th? Is either one, is these,
That's how we've done it.
these are the appointments that, is just annual, this is nothing.
2020.
June 20, okay. So we'll be
June
redoing
15th,
this.
2020.
Okay, all right, I second.
Further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sam.
What are your office hours?
I'm in the office on Monday and Wednesdays from 8 to 12 officially, sometimes a little bit early and a lot of times a little bit later. And then I'm always in the field and available by either phone or tablet.
So if somebody wanted to come in and talk to you about, their house, a two-family, that used to be a two-family and they just want to find out, they've already gone to the Board of Health and figured all that out.
Yep.
And they
So
wanna-
I'd ideally be those Monday, Wednesday hours from 8 to 12, but if for some reason that doesn't work, getting a call, you know, I'll accommodate however I can.
And there's nothing online, I think it's probably better just to sit down and talk to you about it.
Yeah, either a phone call or email, if they don't want, you know, that's an easy way to get me to,
Would you rather to sit down, or which one would you rather? 'Cause I have to
totally
tell-
up to, it's
I'm gonna tell them, no, this was a specific question asked of me, and I told
really,
them.
really up to them, depending on how much they have and what they feel will be easier. If they think a sit down, then great, come on in.
Good.
You know, whatever's easier for the citizen.
I appreciate it, thank you.
Cool, awesome, thank you guys.
Thanks.
Thanks, Sam.
Nice to see you, and see you in June.
Yeah. Maybe before. In passing at least.
Snowballing.
All right.
Item D, we, at the moment, want to table this. It was a approval, the initial item was, on the agenda was to, a job description related to establishing a lieutenant position in the police department, but because of additional information, we're gonna be working on that, but it's going to be tabled for the moment, and Angus can give us a little more detail.
So with the hire of Chief Durant, he had set out his initial priorities for the board, one of which was to establish a clear second in command in the department. And the board is very supportive of that effort and is actively working toward making that happen. But with the contract negotiations with the police union just on the verge of beginning, it made sense to roll that into one discussion.
You don't have to, just take it, yeah.
Right. Next item is a discussion of an ongoing annual source of some contention in the town, parking at Pipe Stave when there's equestrian events and sporting events and so forth. And not one of my favorite things. I think we should all be able to get along on this, but it seems to be that it doesn't happen. I don't want to talk about it, so someone else talk about it.
Well, the only thing that I think we know is that this is not gonna go away, so we have to, this has been an ongoing thing for probably long before 10 years, before me probably. So, we need to do something, so. Are they looking, I mean, a solution, I read your note about having like I like the idea of, like an engineering solution without any preconceived, stuff. I like that because I think we always try to get somewhere, but we all have kind of a preconceived notion of how it needs to happen. But are we gonna be is this gonna be an article, or is this gonna be, is this, you know what I mean? Like, are we gonna need money for funding this, and how's that all about?
Well, the I thought that would be part of what we discussed tonight. I had expected we'd have a representative Park and Rec Commission here, which I don't believe we do. So, but I'll tell you where the discussion, picked up most recently. This is something that they've been consistently focused on, but as you know, there was a proposal brought forward in the fall of 2018 to, based on a specific proposal that was not just parking, it was far beyond that with additional, recreational uses on the Dunn property. And because of the timing of that with the, kind of concurrent looking at parking to serve the existing uses, the latter proposal kind of fell by the wayside. So when Tom Flaherty had reached out to Wayne and I this winter, we met a few weeks ago, and I think his idea, as I summarized in the memo, is to kind of, is there a way to, rather than bring forward a specific proposal, to engage some civil engineering support to look at the issue and recommend whether there might be resolutions to, at a very minimum, allow people to park better and more efficiently use the existing parking. He had a couple of examples of things they've talked about as a commission, but not being engineers and without having kind of specific measurements, they're just ideas. They don't really know if they would actually work. And there have been other ideas about potentially expanding parking in certain locations, and they feel, and I tend to agree, that those ideas are not going to go forward without some kind of rigorous review. Some engineer to look at them and say this can work or this can't work, or this can work but only if you do X, Y, Z in terms of ingress and egress and site distance and these kinds of things. So I had thought, and the commission did meet last week, and I had expected there'd be someone here tonight to talk about how we might move forward to engage some resources to look at this. Where we don't have that, I don't know if you just want to table the discussion. I'm not, if there was a proposal for funding at this upcoming Springtown meeting, I don't have any sense of what kind of specific scope of work or number we might be looking at. So I think we might be looking at a longer term, approach.
So are they the driving force, so should we wait for them? I mean, obviously, we do have some type of, probably a better way of doing things up there.
Well, one of the things that's also going on is that there's actually events further down the line where not this spring even, but where there is conflicts between the equestrian people and the
Significant events scheduled the same day?
exactly.
Same weekend? Yeah.
Do we know, like, 2 years out you're talking about?
No, next fall. Angus knows more the dates than I do, and it seems like we ought to be able to get beyond fighting about that.
I would agree.
But see, we always get these promises that everyone is going to get along, and they don't. And the Board of Selectmen, if there is a dispute, the Board of Selectmen can become the arbiters of that dispute. And I don't think they want us to be the heavy hands that come in and say, this is what you're going to do. But we can do that if we have to.
So, a little bit of background. We're in charge, the selectmen are quote-unquote control, for a better word, of Pipe Safe. But then we give the management of that to the Park and Recs to manage the daily activities, basically, right? It's not like the fields back here where they were gifted to Park and Rec and we really have no say about those fields. Those are kind of I'm trying to do it in like layman's terms. Those are our fields, and we give the control of managing it to Park and Rec. You know what I mean by that?
Not exactly.
Not exactly, because basically it's set forth in the management agreements, and what they do is have different different sections and they're given different stakeholders kind of like authority to run it.
Okay.
But as Archie said, is that if there's a dispute between them, it comes to the board. And what the board says is final. Now, this is all in conjunction with the conservation restriction
Yeah.
and, but also.
The Mill Pond.
Mill
Management-
Pond.
Mill Pond Management.
Mill Pond, yeah.
So, you know, you've got the Mill Pond Committee on one side, you've got, you know, all the other ones. And when you come down to it, it's basically, you know, everyone has their own little piece of pipes.
Yeah, and they don't wanna give it up.
Right.
So, so to speak about like even spending money on an engineering, on how well or how better we can utilize that area, we could have a group of people that might not like that. And then we go and spend 50 grand, 60 grand, and then we go to the next town meeting and try to implement those changes, and then it gets voted down, and then there's another study in somebody's drawer that we spent 50 or 60,000 on. Would it be better, have we ever tried, we've tried it a little bit, but even like when I was a chairman, we met up there with I met up there with a Park and Rec and somebody from Riding and Driving, but nobody ever from Mill Pond. Is it better to try to get everybody in the room at one time?
You've done that.
I know.
Is
but
Mill Pond?
We
the
did
Mill Pond
that-
Committee
we
part of
did
the-
that.
Part of the, are they part of the, you know, it's not really a dispute, but I'll call it that. Did they become part of the dispute?
I think it's because of the Mill Pond management letter states all the stakes of everybody, so I guess,
Yeah,
so maybe they just defunct, you
they're
know,
part of it too. I mean,
just
you know.
because it's the Mill Pond management.
Mill-
Rick, that's a great question, honestly, I don't know, but it just seems like they would be implied to be part of it because it's the Mill Pond management letter, but I don't know an answer to that.
Yeah, I mean, it makes, if we do something, it seems to me, if it hasn't been done already, that we should get people who are representative of each of the stakeholder groups together and try to have a rational conversation.
But we have done that
Yeah,
a
okay,
lot,
yeah.
and,
I
and
think-
people tend to be intransigent. And
But I think we've always tried to be, we've done that with a little bit of kick gloves too. Maybe we need to say, everybody needs to get along, or we're gonna make a ruling. That, I don't think we've ever even, I don't think,
we haven't done it that way, no.
no, I don't think we've ever said that. We've always tried to do it that way. So, would it be okay if you kind of give me an example of what the conflict's gonna be that's looming on a horizon, or is it not even good to be into
Sure,
that?
I can give you.
Just to give me like a
Yeah, in a nutshell, so there's a key kind of fall sport kickoff weekend, or there's a date where there's a number of, or at least one season that starts, and that happens to coincide with the day of a equestrian event. So the Riding and Driving Club had put in a request that to use the facility, but also to not use the fields for anything that day. So essentially, you know, a request to use the entire property, but to not actually use the fields, but to just reserve them so they wouldn't be used. And under the under the Mill Pond Management Plan, or Pipe State Mill Pond Management Plan, that question is the Park and Rec Commission's decision. And so they declined and said, no, we're not gonna agree to not use the fields during that time. They are very happy to, you know, do what they can with parking and with directing different parking people to different places and try to manage the situation, but they weren't willing to hold off the use of the fields at, you know, for any purpose. So that hasn't come to a head. No one's appealed that. You know, the provision that Archie cited is in the management plan, and that Mike pointed out. It does provide that where there's a conflict, it does say that could be resolved by the selectmen. I don't think we're there yet on that issue, and maybe we won't get there because they may be satisfied.
But we're being a little proactive, which is
Yeah,
good.
that's exactly
In
the point.
January,
What I
rather
see-
than doing this.
that's-
I know, that is good, yeah.
Rather than doing this the second week of September, when everybody's saying you have to make a decision right now before we send out our flyers or
Right.
whatever. Okay?
I mean, I don't disagree that the idea of a totally neutral party with no existing agenda might come in and say, here's a great way the town should deal with this problem. But I don't know.
Yes, I would agree with that. But the only way that would happen, I think that would be effective, what you just said, is they don't talk to Park and Rec, they don't talk to anyone at all about anything. They don't talk to riding and driving, they don't talk to a soul about it. And we give them a charge, or Angus gives them a charge of trying to utilize the area that we have the best way we can, you know what I mean, for parking, and then just come back with that. So there isn't any preconceived stuff, and then we do it. But because it's a big waste of time if everybody goes and talks to Park and Rec, and goes talk to riding and driving, and then talks to whomever else, and then it's just gonna be tainted, I think.
I agree, yeah.
Because everybody has their own stake, which they should.
Yeah, but who's ever doing the study has to have a really good, really good understanding of.
The issues
of
involved,
what the
yeah,
needs of
yeah.
each stakeholder, or what each stakeholder believes there needs to be.
Well, I would agree with that.
And
one of them would
so,
be
so,
parking.
so how do you convey that without them having, I mean, obviously Angus can talk with them, but is Angus gonna think of every question that that
Well, one would be
might be
parking
relevant
and
to
buses,
somebody who's doing
and
that
the other
job?
one would be trailers. And warm-up areas, yeah, there is a lot more, you're right. There is, because a lot of places where you think there might be good parking, or, hey, temporary parking on grass, the riding and driving club uses it as a, like.
It depends on the
warm-up.
size
Yeah,
of
like
the.
a warm-up area for the horses before they get into the race.
And
So you said, did you say they're buses, Glenn? So,
Yep.
so is there a reason, or maybe this is already done, is there, if it isn't already done, is there a reason why we can't use, the first part of the DPW lot just for?
That's for the bus, that's already been.
That's,
Oh,
that
that's
we've
already used.
we've
Okay,
done
okay.
that,
There's
yeah.
the back end
Okay.
where,
Yep.
the back in there and that
Okay.
rock thing, this is 113
Yep.
and the rocks are there,
Okay.
they're supposed to back in there afterwards.
Yeah.
But then again, the message, I've seen gone by there and they've been there, but sometimes they're not there and they're packed out back because the message wasn't conveyed properly. Maybe some better signage, maybe some better, I don't know. You know what I mean? Because you get a school from Rockport, you get a school from whatever, and it just wasn't a new driver, Sam's driving and always
Or
was Bob.
maybe if it's such a big event day, maybe, maybe the organizations holding the events need to spend $300 on somebody to direct, to keep things in line for the day, or do they do that already?
I think that, if I'm not mistaken, the riding and driving club, does the
They-
emergency
like-
management, I think even the emergency management, or maybe they have the vest, sometimes they've volunteered, and people are parking across the street.
A lot of the equestrian events, the spectators park at the
Across,
page.
yeah.
Obviously, you can't have the trailers and the horses
Yeah,
up
but there
there.
are people
But the
going from-
spectators go there, and they have people with a vest or whatever to get them across, yeah, but,
Well, why don't we without getting more background information, like, why was it denied, rather than saying, let's try to play together in the sandbox together, or maybe it's just, you can't, the event's too big. You know what I mean, the equestrian event's too, because there is a lot of stuff that comes with that, talking about horses or trailers, it's not easy. And then if you get people that don't park, another problem is too, Rick, we've had, is when you have like a soccer team, a soccer team, and they're not always playing within West Newbury, other teams. So then you get somebody from Wilmington, that there's no parking, they don't understand, that's the riding and driving side, so all of a sudden, one person parks down there because they don't want to walk farther, then all of a sudden the whole lot's filled because these people are from another town and they don't really know where to park. For a while, we tried, we had people up there, or a kid up there, directing people and saying, I'm sorry, you can't park here. Well, that, then you get an angry somebody from wherever, I'm parking where I want to park, and that turned into the police being called. And so we have tried, that wasn't on the direction of us, that was something that was happening. There have been like lot attendants, and then what do? You go up and ticket it, and the police are ticketing them, and they don't want
I
to.
don't think they can.
Yeah, and then they can't. Yeah, because it's not. That's right. They couldn't ticket them. They called the police, and then you can't ticket them because it's really not a real no parking sign. It turned into That's right, I forgot about that, because they did try to.
Right, yeah.
So, we've, I don't know.
Okay, as
We
a,
haven't
as a,
costed
as a,
everything, but-
as a first step, let's see if we can get the parties together and talk and mediate it first before,
Well, hold on for 1 second.
on this one specific
Does
event.
anybody, we've gone through it all. Does anybody honestly believe, and I'm not taking a side right now, a real, non-objective engineering study of that site to try to maximize the use up there, to maximize the use in parking would be a good idea to start? I guess that's the question for us tonight. And then we could work and do that. If would that really? I mean, and how much is that? If it's 10 grand or 20 grand, if it's 10 grand, I think that might be money well spent to try to. Because everybody's had their own ideas up there. I don't know. I'm just asking.
Wouldn't it be better than even, doing different studies, is just simply to have a temporary parking lot established on the Dunn Farm next to it, so that there would just be overflow?
We've
Well, I mean,
we've done that.
but
I mean,
no,
we've suggested
no.
that, and that was
That was struck down.
yeah.
Well, I don't think that was struck down. What was struck down was a whole plan to do the whole shebang, $50,000 to, and I'm talking about something that's temporary in nature, wouldn't foreclose any future use of that site, and just,
Like on three
People-
Saturdays,
but
3
but
weekends
it's-
a year, it might be used.
So, Mike,
But-
where would it be on the Dunn property?
it'd just be.
You come down.
Other side of the wall.
And you just
Yeah, you know where that is? You come down,
to the existing roadway, and then you just, the back end of that property is, that abuts the Dunn property, and you just make a gravel parking lot down there.
you come down,
Where,
That's-
this is where
that's
the wood
That's
chips, the
recycled.
wood
Yeah,
chips
yeah,
used to be
and there
right
is an
there.
existing road that comes
Yeah,
all the way
yeah,
down
yeah,
here
yeah, I
that
know
comes
that.
here
Yeah, yeah.
for handicapped people.
Yeah.
So you could go in here, even one of these sports teams has their trailer over there. Oh, there it is.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, I'm not saying.
You must have been watching us from home, because we've been talking, I'm not talking about you specifically, but we've been,
You missed,
Actually,
you
we were
missed all
saying
the.
all sorts of good things about you, Tom.
You missed all.
Every other word
you
was
missed
a good,
all
it
the
was a good
fun.
word for
it was
Tom.
also the impeachment hearing, so you probably picked that.
That's pretty boring. If you guys could give folks a 1-minute synopsis, this man is in the middle of a lot of what you're,
Yep, well, yeah, and his name's all over the things we're reading about.
Are we talking about?
Yes, we are.
West Dave?
We're
Yes,
right in
we
the
are.
middle of it.
Jeez.
Right in the middle. Come on up.
You should be up there.
You just made it, you gotta
This
push.
was not supposed to happen.
Ready-made seat with the mic already lit up.
All right, so Tom, I had put into the board's packet a summary of our recent meeting and conversations and the idea of whether as opposed to the proposal a year and a half ago with a specific proposal, whether we could benefit from more of an open-ended engineering look at whether we could, in your words, encourage people to park better, more efficiently use the existing space, potentially look at opportunities to expand parking. So we're talking about the management plan, the interplay between rec and equestrian and so forth, and that's right about where we were.
All right. We Park and Rec have been talking about this for a long time, and Angus has thought about having an engineering company look at it, give us some technical advice. Seems to make sense. It's as simple as that for me. Do I need to explain anything?
I think part of the concern the board was talking through, which I think we would all share, is if there's any appearance of preconceived bias. That's kind of what we're trying to talk through, is how do you do a study without there being anybody, with the end result being broadly perceived as credible.
Like-
I don't,
Like them driving it, you know what I mean? You know, we've met up there.
we have.
You and I mean,
The
our,
parking lot.
we've all done that, trying to work together and
Right.
and then everybody goes, no, you can't do that, why can't you go around that, you can't do that? So, I mean, honestly, what's new? We want it to work.
Yeah.
I mean,
I actually think we've made enough talk about it that people, our West Newbury public, will accept the fact that at least let's attempt to have an engineering firm give us what maybe should be done.
when you say that, Tom, do you say what should be done with the, or try to utilize the existing, like, footprint as much as we can? And then maybe say, give us recommendations of having maybe a temporary thing over it done for certain huge events, something like that? Or try to, totally expand it, like, hey, if we took recycling out of there and we put it somewhere else, I mean, I'm just, you know what I mean?
But legitimate. I remind us all that we, Park and Rec, approach this with utilizing our current space.
Mm-hmm.
And our plan, amateurish that it was, seemed to be a possible solution, which was creating a circular path for the equestrian people.
Behind the ring.
Behind the second ring,
Mm-hmm.
and either onto, our proposal was onto the onto the DPW macadam after 3 o'clock. There can be no interference with DPW. And that seemed to be the easiest, simplest. And let me step back. We wanted to take the present, if this table is the parking area parallel with the rings, this area right here is the equestrian trailer area. We would come in here and come around the corner and come this way. Our proposal was move this here and then create a gravel road, which it has to be, onto the macadam of the DPW area. Now, that was our specific, that's my answer to your question. We were looking at something that hopefully didn't have to become large. Our committee, Pipe Stave Parking Committee, well done by David, lots of good conversation, came up supporting Gary's proposal, which was a significant parking area on the top of the hill. If you,
Top of the hill?
sure. If you come into the area and take a left going around the wood chip pile and around the baseball field, you get a little bit beyond center field, there's a pathway onto the Dunn upper field. There's a tree line and a flattish area.
Mm-hmm.
That's where Gary wanted to make a large change.
Is that where they have the shed or?
Correct.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep. Okay. To give you a reference point, you have go down there.
And we're here, again, because you might remember, CPC drew our committee's proposal, which supported Gary, into Park and Rec's attempt to have a engineering study of the Dunn property. And we had talked about it, Pipe State Parking Committee, we had talked about it, keeping it separate so that we could have a solution unrelated to what happened to the Dunn proposal for the recreational ideas, just that's.
The larger.
The bigger,
Yeah.
the bigger project.
The
Correct.
fields
Yeah.
and all
Correct.
that. Yep, you're right.
But that was just an engineering study that we were asking for. And when that was defeated, we were back to square one, and here we are. So, does that answer? Yeah.
It helps.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, we've been doing this, I mean.
It's time.
And it seems we're only utilizing, I don't know, when my kids grew up, you know, there was soccer, lacrosse, baseball, now there's rugby, there's just more usage, there's more families going up there. The fields are being utilized even at a greater length during the day rather than, you know, it's just more people. And it's, I don't know. So would you suggest you know, having an engineering study standing on its own, try not to piggyback it on anything else, and try to
Correct.
utilize that area?
Correct.
Because we have so much invested up there
Yeah.
with
I
the
would ask-
fields and stuff too.
I would ask the firm, if the town did this, I would ask for several options maybe. An option of the current, could we do something with our current space at the top of the hill?
Mhm.
And maybe they would say no, or maybe they would say yes. And maybe that would be the simplest one, and the least expensive. And then maybe a moderate answer, and then maybe top of the line, or expansion, I would assume would be what that one would be. I don't know.
But all you know and all I think we all know, we just don't want to face it. Something needs to be.
We do, we're.
Something needs to be
We're
done.
derelict now.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. We were hoping it was all going to work out, but we all knew it wasn't. Right? we had good intentions, but you're right. So yeah, I think it's time. And there's so much money invested up there. So
What's that got to do with
no, but I
anything?
mean to be able to utilize it properly, that you know, it might even get used more. I mean, there's a huge investment that would, because of parking, I don't think, and there's conflict, and I think Riding and Driving Club pushes back a little bit, and they don't even want to try to go up there because they don't want the confrontation, they don't want to do it. So
It's true.
all the money that they've spent up there and all the hard work they've done over the years, it could probably be utilized even more if we had a better system up there. I think people are, and then obviously people are digging in now, because I guess this whole thing came up because Park and Rec is having a huge event on the same day as some opening of a thing, and then Park and Rec asked for, you know, total, you know, if there's any way we could have the whole place, and they said no, we have, and so now we're trying to be proactive because that's going to happen in the fall, so it's better than having the police called and all that, which has been done before.
Yes, I'd like to comment on that. I think this is important. West Newbury Riding and Driving Club has had 3 events.
Just make sure you're close.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Has this been down?
Yeah, a little bit. Right here.
Oh, okay. West Newbury Riding and Driving Club has had 3 events that for them are their major activities every year, and they communicate with us, give us the dates, and ask us if we will not have any athletic events on those 3 days. And so that's what we've done. And 2 years ago, the president of the West Newbury Youth League, Jack Foley, lives on Steed Avenue, who was the founder of the new flag football activity that we have in town and our district, which has become so popular. And he called me at 8 o'clock in the morning. He said, "Tom, I blew it. We have our jamboree today where all the teams," and I looked at Jack and he looked at me and, oh my goodness, we might as well get on a boat and go down the river right now.
Or maybe you said that.
You were going out for lunch.
Could have been a little more colorful.
Oh,
Lord.
Beach.
So here's,
Leaving my cell phone at home.
oh, I'm telling you. So while Jack did communications just to make sure that people knew there might be a solution, I went up to the entrance road and parked my car and signaled each vehicle that came in and just said football or riding. And if they said football, I pointed to DPW. And if they said riding, they went down to the parking area. The West Newbury Riding and Driving Club restricts that area. So there weren't many that came in that needed to go down. Of course, we just sent them down because they would be part of their event. And we made it. It was a success, thank heavens. When the majority of it was finished in the morning, I drove over and talked to Deb Hamilton, and things were going fine. It's always easy to talk to Deb anyway. She comes across easily, always. And wow, we made it, they made it, it was good. So then, this past September, a new director of the flag football wanted to have the jamboree on the same day as the previous year because it's the first Saturday or Sunday, whatever day that is, after Labor Day, and that's, of course, when the fall season begins for fall sports. And so we talked at length with Riding and Driving, and they really were opposed to it, not badly or vehemently, but would love to have the top of the hill to themselves. And we analyzed it, and we made a decision based on a fascinating item. The flag football jamboree is staggered hour and a half or two all through the day. So all the teams don't come at the same time. And the riding, driving event is the same. They come and then they go. So the volume is not as seriously troublesome as you might think. And Deb would tell us that this past September's event was bigger than they'd ever had before. And we made it. We made it fine again. In spite of maybe what they might say, I talked to them again, and clearly from at least our perspective, the two events went off easily.
Did you have the parking like you did before?
Well, yes.
I mean, like, you know what I mean, directing people?
We had a sign. We brought a sign, football parking, arrow, into DPW. There were a couple of minor skirmishes in that I wouldn't talk about publicly. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean that badly negative either, but it's just a couple of sensitive things that happened that...
You get that many people in one place, something like that.
Sure. And so then this year, afterwards, they asked formally that we not have the flag football jamboree on that day. And we haven't resolved it yet. We've kind of passed the buck, I guess, but they haven't forced the issue either. And it's just percolating right now. Our opinion is that both events can occur simultaneously. We think we've proved it 2 years in a row.
With some management.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some thought process and some
Right.
understanding too. There has to be a little bit of understanding on both sides.
Yep.
Okay. But you still say we should have an engineer. I mean,
I do.
I would agree with that. We say we've done everything. That's the only thing we haven't done. We've just all stood up there with a bunch of ideas, and then people say, oh, that can't work because of grading, that can't work because of the slope of the hill, but nobody really knows unless you get we have all good ideas, but unless you get a real professional,
Yeah.
with an engineer that tells us, these ideas that we think will work, they'll really work. And there's how you turn a trailer and how that comes out, and the proper sight lines and so forth and so on. Honestly, this is the thing we really haven't done. We've done everything else.
Why did the idea of looping all the way around and coming out through the DPW, what
Good
what-
question.
What stopped that? What
Good
killed that
question.
idea? Or did it just die in the vine?
No, that,
Gary didn't like the idea.
correct.
Gary didn't like it, and the writing and driving didn't like it either.
The,
Change, I don't know.
the riding and driving,
Didn't like moving their warm-up area.
exactly, losing some space in their warm-up area.
Yeah, I mentioned that earlier. When you look at it, you know, you say, oh, there's plenty of room there, but then you forget that they utilize stuff for warm-up area, for tack area, and all that. So you would need, when we say about a person just to look at it and tell, we would need some input of like, hey, riding and driving, what do you generally do there, and what's the space you really need? And
Okay, we're really beating this to death now, so.
well, it's not going to go away.
I know,
It's been here. So I think we
but
should-
Glenn, 15 minutes ago, you said you thought it was a bad idea to have a study.
No, but I know, but I'm glad Tom came in, because it just reminds me of all the efforts from a lot of people to try to make it work, and unless we really do get a professional thing done to tell us what we really can do and what we can't do, and then what do we
Would it make sense to go out and just try to get some estimates for what the cost of it, you know, different degree of study of the area would be? And, you know, maybe that would inform the conversation. I mean, if it's gonna cost, you know, $60,000 to have, you know, three different configurations evaluated, then maybe that's a lot of money. But, you know, as I think Archie said earlier, if it's 10 grand, then, I think that was you that said that, then maybe that's a different decision, you know, different matter.
That certainly makes sense. Originally,
But,
the Park and Rec proposal, lengthening the parking area and having a gravel road to the DPW, Gary originally thought 10,000, but then he said 20,000. I think that would be the,
Well, that was to actually,
That was to
that
do
was
the
to
work.
actually do it, Tom. That was not to study it. That
No,
was what,
no.
if he
Correct.
got the dirt and stuff
He would
and
do a
moved
lot
it,
of-
yeah,
he would do
yeah.
a
Correct.
lot of the earth movement, so.
yeah.
So I guess the basic question is, I think, the Angus, is that do we start to try to put together some type of article that we could get some type of engineering study done to try to better the parking and maybe give us one alternative, like Tom said, to try to utilize what we have up there for the wants and needs of everybody, and then, you know, the cheapest alternative to be able to just to increase the parking. And put an article together for that engineering for Springtown meeting, and then bring it forth. And just everybody keep our eyes on the ball.
I think just to, I'm not opposed to temporarily using the Dunn area if we needed more spots, but some people are. So I think if we narrow, we're immediately going to engender some backlash against doing anything if we do that. Why don't we just keep a narrow focus at least in the beginning? Okay, if we want to study it, let's study it only. What can we do to enhance the angle of parking, or what the whatever of what we have right at the moment without changing the scope of it? Because that's what burned everything up the last time.
What about making some, and with some modifications to some roadways up there? Because if we're just going to, some people have just said we should have lines up there, whether it's dirt, you know what I mean? Because people don't park close enough to each other, so you lose 10 spots, whatever. But I think the scope needs to just be a little bit bigger. If you want to keep it to that footprint, okay, but it needs to be like, if you need to put it on a road so the trailers can get out. The biggest thing is that as soon as the trailers get back in their parking lot, they need enough room to swing around. That's the problem.
yeah, I mean, from what Tom was just saying, it doesn't sound like at least the way I interpret it, is that the basic problem isn't the way spaces are utilized right now. It's essentially that you know, one organization feels that their use for that particular time is not compatible with another use on the hillside, and it's kind of more basic than, is there enough parking or not?
Well, it's both.
It's both,
It's
yeah.
both.
Yeah.
And then you bring in the horses.
Like, horses, let's be honest, horse situations, they don't like a whole bunch of other cars around,
Right.
and exactly,
Spooks the horses. I mean, that's
Yeah.
legitimate.
I honestly feel that the Riding and Driving Club needs to compromise a bit. The plan that we had, that they opposed because of that practice area, losing their practice area, there's enough space there on the other side, that grassy area when you come in the road, as you look at the rings. Something has to give. That's the issue. Something has to give. And the idea, the Park and Rec idea of a circular track for their trailers, I think is a big plus for them.
all right, so where do we go from here?
Would be, one option would be if, an article was placed on the warrant, but then, with the expectation that over the course of the next, 4 or 5 weeks, we would solicit, quotes based on a scope, keep it simple, get a ballpark idea, at which point the board could either decide to keep it on the warrant and go forward with a better idea of price, or withdraw from the warrant if either the pricing comes back high, or if you're not comfortable that the scope is the right scope, but that at least would preserve the option.
Okay,
I would think that would be, at least we should do that.
okay.
At least we're trying to move forward.
Just the, as you know, it's, well, the warrant closes January 31st, it's not signed until much later in the process, so you can always take it off.
Now, do we inform the Riding and Driving Club that we're gonna do this and ask them for their needs, or is that documented somewhere? I mean, we've all been told it a billion times, I guess, but we don't wanna forget something, then we set out a scope, and then it really isn't the right scope, and then so it's dead in the water before it starts.
I think they need to realize that it's more than just them. We're talking about parking there. And
We're talking about parking, we're talking about recycling, we're talking about DPW, we all have to live up there.
Yeah.
Because on Saturdays, our recycling is open, so you have car traffic going in for that.
Not very much.
Yeah, not much, but there's still people doing it. Probably 10, 15 maybe. Thank you.
May I be excused?
Yes.
You do what
Thanks,
you
Tom.
want, but-
That's right, this is overtime for you.
It is, I'm off the clock, what's up?
I know, you keep on saying we, I was gonna say, didn't you say?
Well, yeah, I thought you were officially off the payroll.
I don't want to remind you of that because you wouldn't have given that good wisdom.
You should be coaching somewhere right now.
Well, no, thank
I
you.
guess it's too late.
Waiting for catches and pitches to arrive, right?
Coming up
In a
soon.
month.
So you want it in here for something.
I knew it was here, that's all.
Oh,
And I said to my wife, I'm a citizen, I'm gonna go up and have fun.
Thank you for that.
Round it up anytime.
Okay,
You might be capable for the next discussion too, if you wouldn't mind. Sticking around 2 minutes, because I think you're gonna, this is something that you've probably been dealing with.
this is just something that it's an aggravation of, a personal aggravation of mine, is that we have a leash law, but we don't have any kind of and we have fines and so forth. It may not be used very much, but at least they're on the books. And we don't have any kind of any bylaws, any fines, nothing related to people allowing their dog waste to go wherever. And I run around the reservoir a lot. And it's even worse now because people think they're great, they put it in a plastic bag, and then they leave the plastic bags, which is even worse because it doesn't deteriorate. So, and I see it a lot. And we have we put up a sign a year and a half ago that said the dogs have to be under control, which we're giving people a break because there's actually is a leash law in town. Dogs have to be under the control. And there's so much dog waste just in that one area, up on Pipestave again. So it seems to me that we should at least have some fines put in place for people allowing their dogs to do this, and that with signs that I'm not saying that we're going to go around being able to arrest people or fine people for doing that, but if we have a sign, it has some effect, I would hope. That's all I have to say.
I'm totally agree with, the reason why I said, because you must have been dealing with this.
We put the signs up
Yeah.
on the ball fields.
They're supposed to be leashed when they go down there. People, dog walkers, I watched, 5 or 6 people just let them loose on the field. Because.
Lots of different places,
Well,
and
if you ask
yeah.
the people, this is almost one of the last havens where you can quote unquote let your dog off of a leash, but still stay in control. So if my dog theoretically is over there in the men's room, and I go, come on over, and then, he comes back, that's in control, I guess, right? But he's been, and so you get a lot of people that just don't even live in town anymore, because if you go to Maudsley, you go anywhere, that they all have to be on the leash. So that's why, so I'll support anything you want, because I've actually picked stuff up off the fields before. People just don't care. So what do we do?
So I'd like to make a motion that there's a $10,000 fine
And lots of animals.
for allowing your dog to defecate on town land.
And without you picking it up.
Noble fight, right?
I'm not sure you might. Is that an American or is that?
But you see, I've seen signs on
Thank
one,
you, Tom. That was very
See you later.
helpful.
on
See you later,
128 is a $10,000 fine for littering on 128.
Really?
You want to really?
We could use that as a way to reduce tax rate.
Yeah.
Are you just trying to make this aware, or you want to really honestly? Are you serious? You're not serious on the 10,000. I mean,
I would vote for it, but I don't think it'll pass, but yeah.
$10,000. I don't think I have it on me. Dick Cushing, Maple Street. About 6 months ago, a man who's lived in town for 40 years or so was up at Mill Pond, and he was walking a dog about a foot and a half long. He was half as big as this table, just a little guy, and he was on a leash. And there was a woman who we're reasonably sure was not a resident of town, who had 4 dogs just about up at the parking lot where you can walk down the mill. And they were running all over the place and were going to jump on the dog and the man and everything. So the man asked the woman to just cease with the dogs. And she started hollering at him to the point, some of the things she said to this gentleman were obscene. I mean, she was all over him for being rude and obnoxious, and she said he looked like a bum, and why should she listen to him, and so on.
While her dogs were running around.
Yes.
causing problems.
So later in the morning, I happened to be at the dispatch, and this gentleman came in to report it. And I don't think, based on what I'm hearing now, that the process was in place, that a report was done. And I don't know whether that's true or not. I know the dispatcher listened, and that's all I know. The dispatcher took the verbal complaint, and, I don't know what happened, where it went from there, if anywhere. So you can make it $10,000 or $50,000 or $25, but unless you've got In the old days in Boston, there was a special branch of police called the Metropolitan District Commission, for some of you older people. They had orange and blue cars, and they did certain things. They protected certain buildings. And then they were incorporated into the registry of the state police or whatever. And so they're long gone. So would this, if this gentleman had called dispatch that minute, is it sensible to think, and that happened 5 times that day, that an officer would show up 10 minutes later and write a ticket from whoever was on duty around 1:13 or what?
I would think so.
I would.
Especially now, everyone, even if you're out walking your dog, you probably have your cell phone, so people can communicate with the police if they need to.
At the minimum, Dick, I would think that that dispatcher then would report that to our dog officer, and maybe you would take trips up there.
But that would be much slower,
Well, no,
yeah.
I said at a
Yeah,
minimum.
in the process, yeah.
I said at a minimum, and then if they don't get the person, if they're
Yeah.
driven away, that person would have a description of the person or the dog, and next time they come up there, that person would be at least verbally,
Yeah. Well, let's say there are 2 officers on duty at that moment. I don't know, is it?
Yes.
Would you say that's reasonable?
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe a duty officer and then a officer in charge or whatever. And so it could be 5 minutes and the person would be there. Now, the officer would have to find if the woman had wandered off and the gentleman, and so anyway, I'm just saying, is it feasible, if that's going to be enough? Or do we need?
I think it's basically saying that you can have as many fines as you want if we're not gonna enforce them in any way. It's ridiculous to have.
Yeah.
But even partial enforcement is better than zero enforcement, is the way I
Well,
look
it could
at
start out
Yeah.
that way, but
Yeah.
it may go, you may miss 85% of the incidents per day.
But that's what
Or-
happens,
or you may-
that's what happens with speeding tickets, I mean,
Oh, sure.
yeah, but anything else, yeah.
So,
yeah.
but I'm curious,
Yeah.
so we started
All
out
right.
talking about dog poop, and now we're talking about dogs running loose
Yeah.
and
They're
harassing
part
others.
of the
So,
same
No, but I
problem.
think, but I think Dick was right in the sense that you can have fines, but if you're not gonna have a way to enforce them, why bother having them?
Well, Jen could report on a weekly basis that 5 people were fined, maybe the names, I don't know.
What's the current penalty for a break, for not adhering to the leash law?
It's 25. That's like the first one, I believe, is a warning, and then the,
But you know what our leash
The-
law
the-
is, you don't have to have a dog on the leash, as long as it's under voice command.
Yeah.
So your dog
Yeah.
can be next to you, or your dog can be
it's,
over like that.
the wording is, I believe.
So it's an
immediate
arguable
control,
Yeah.
which is.
Situation.
So I
subject to
yell at my
dispute.
dog and it runs away, and that was control, apparently.
Oh, no,
runs
my
to-
dog could be,
No,
my
it was his
dog
kid.
could literally
Hey,
could be
I
at
think
the men's room,
Voice, dog
and then he
control
comes
is a
back,
relative
but
thing.
he's
Some
under my
people think
control,
they
he
have
just
the
come
dog
back
under
to me, but
control,
then
and
he
they call the
kinda
dog, and the dog goes the
sniffs
other
another
direction.
dog
Yeah,
who's on a leash, and it's
Yeah.
all very subjective, like Dick said.
Well, I remember the debate at the high school that year. I don't know how, you would remember, guys, Glenn especially. It was the most impassioned, long discussion, including the people who wanted nothing to do with any kind of leash law. One woman was
Oh,
crying.
it was unbelievable.
One woman was crying and said, "My only joy in life," I remember, she said, "I sit up against a tree and I watch my dog run around and you're going to put a leash or I have to chase the dog." And it turned out with a Madeline and everybody agreed on a partial leash law.
Yep. Your dog has to be under your,
And that must be 20,
a long time.
25 years ago. It hasn't changed.
That's when we had, down at the high school, I think, when we had the department that was gonna go across.
That's right.
Oh, that was that meeting? Oh,
That was
yeah.
the Mullen meeting,
Oh,
which never even happened because there was new information that mysteriously came forward.
Yeah.
And
It was drawn.
I remember the people in the committee who had been working on it for 2 years. And then one of the residents up at the Hill raised his hand and said, "New information, we can't do this tonight." And Casey said, "Fine," and that was the end of that discussion. And that wasn't pretty either, so.
No, people do get impassioned with their dogs.
Yeah.
Dick, you've been here, when we've had to tell people they couldn't have their dogs anymore.
Yeah.
Oh,
Remember that night?
oh, yeah. Well, actually, there was some threats made that night.
Yeah.
No. Just one postscript, we did amend our bylaws recently. If you have 4 dogs, they must be on a leash. There's no immediate control exception. 4 dogs on a leash, if not, fine.
Is 4 specifically the threshold?
4 or more.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to have a kennel license if you have 3 or more.
Right, but I mean,
So these are the
this
dog
was.
walkers.
No,
this was
but you
the dog
can't,
walkers.
like, up on Pipe Stave and stuff, that's where we said you can't have.
Anywhere.
Because, no, but people used to bring up like 8, the dog
Oh, the
walkers
dog
and stuff.
walkers
Yeah,
used to go everywhere.
yeah.
So what do you wanna do?
I would just like to have at least on the books, I would like to have a dog waste fine.
And then then let's do that, and then let's talk to the police and see how we're serious about it, and if they get phone calls, they have, how we're gonna implement it.
And like, you hold on just for a second, I wanna make a correction, like, as Mike Mute said the other night, which I praised him for. I think the debate was housing on Hilltop Circle, or close to it, and not the Mullen that
It
night.
wasn't Mullen, it was the one, the ski hill.
Yes.
It was the, Break Hill.
Break Hill.
Okay,
Break,
Hill,
not Mullen, it was
40B.
gonna be a 40B.
Yeah.
Craven,
yeah.
yeah.
That's what it was.
Okay.
It wasn't Mullen. But, okay, just make the motion.
Well, I made a motion for
Well, I'm
10,000.
not seconding that, $10,000.
Well, we've had a lot of discussion, so I could second it, we could then have a discussion
Okay, okay.
about the amount. So I'll second it, and we'll have a discussion.
Okay, further discussion.
I think the number should be a little bit smaller than that.
Oh, you think?
I think, actually,
Sleep tonight because you got it off his chest.
Actually, but I do think that this is something that's serious, and it's you know, not only, it's a health issue, I mean, it's an issue at a bunch of different levels. So I don't think $25 is enough, and I don't think there should be a warning. I think it's clear, everybody should be aware, if the dog is pooping on other people's property, whether it's the public or another individual, that it shouldn't be doing it. So, I mean, I would offer a friendly amendment for $50 for the first offense.
I'd second it for the moment,
Okay,
but now we can discuss. I
okay.
think Dick's right, though, that we need to make sure that we're just not up here, most people, think me just blowing hot air, that we really contact the police and the chief and the dog officer and tell them that we're really serious about this. So when when the police are sitting somewhere on a Saturday and they get a phone call, it's important to us.
Okay, well, we'll bring the outreach to the police.
Yeah.
So, I will accept that friendly amendment.
Okay?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So you can just.
50.
You don't have to bring it before town?
I'm sorry, Jen?
Can you set that rate, or do you have to bring it before the town?
Mike,
Have to bring it before the town.
Thank you.
we have to?
Yeah, you have to make a bylaw change. You can't just set.
It's not quite that arbitrary.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you don't feel as good as you thought you did.
That's okay, we're moving in the right direction.
Okay.
So we just voted to bring that to the Springtown meeting, though? So
Yes.
do we need to change that motion then, or that's implied?
I'm making that note right now.
That's
Okay,
implied.
should I make the motion, should I change the motion that I propose an article for Springtown meeting for a $50 fine for not taking care of your dog's waste?
Not cleaning up,
Not cleaning up your dog's waste on public property for $50 for the first offense and subsequent offenses.
That's good, okay.
Okay, we're gonna have one passionate debate on the town meeting floor at least.
So I just changed the motion to, for us to put an article on it instead of us,
anybody
unilaterally
second it?
making it. Yeah, Archie seconded.
Okay, good.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next item is to establish a paid school playground gift account pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A. Second?
Second.
Further discussion?
Do we need to really say this? Real
Well, there
motion?
should be like two motions. One is to establish the account and then authorize the expenditures for the account.
Why don't I do this? Want me to do it first?
Go ahead, yeah.
Do we want to
You,
vote, do we need to vote on the first motion?
I move to establish the paid school playground gift account in accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A, and I move to accept gift funds for said paid school playground gift account and authorize the expenditure of such funds for the study, support, maintenance, repair, reconstruction, and/or all other costs pertaining to the paid school playground.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Actually, I do have
Oh, you
one,
do? Okay.
I have a question. Although I certainly hope this goes forward, what is the provision if for some reason the Page School playground does not get approved at town meeting, whatever actually comes to, exactly what comes to town meeting, what is the provision, or is there a provision for handling the funds? Are they returned to the gifter, or what is the provision?
That's a good question.
I don't think you could, I don't know about returning, but the thing is, there's always some work that can be done. I
On
mean,
any
if not,
playground.
on any playground,
Even
so.
on the old playground, there's something they can use the money on.
Even if they didn't, even if it wasn't,
Yeah.
a brand-new playground was approved, I mean, you could always add wood chips, you could always add some improvement, so,
Or a handicap swing, or
you
something.
know,
And the funds can only be expended for the.
for that purpose.
And it carries over from year to year.
Okay.
So even if they sat there for
For
10
the
years.
study,
Okay.
support,
Okay.
maintenance, repair, reconstruction, and or any other. it's
Okay,
just-
that's a good answer, thanks. Oh, so we need to vote.
Was it, I don't know, a complicated answer, but we will.
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And so, Mike, do we have to do part two, you're saying, or?
No, that, you voted it.
I voted. I did 1 and 2.
Oh, you did one and
The
two,
bottom
okay.
part is just. the
Okay,
acknowledgement of
okay,
the
okay.
account, to the account.
So I don't think we need to make any decisions on this tonight, but I thought we had established the idea that we would have a Memorial Day parade chairperson pursuant to the guidelines that we'd put in place, and just how we wanted to, how and when we wanted to pick said person. I thought we should not let it hang on until, May or something. I think that it would be better to pick the person relatively shortly. So that's just my only thoughts on it.
I have a question also. on
Yeah.
that. Now, there is a budget for the Memorial Day Parade. Does that chairperson then is going to be in charge of expending those funds?
No.
Or recommending to whom, how those funds are, or he or she is just going to be following the guidelines of the provisions that we, of-
Yeah, this person,
Just parade day, to make, kind of manage. the
this
parade
is
day.
the parade day person in sort of arbiter of what's, tasteful. The idea of this person also being in charge of, the parade per
The
se,
veterans making.
isn't necessary.
money.
They could do that, but that wasn't the idea.
That's it, thank you.
As long as nobody could hear me, I know of a certain state trooper, his name is Steve, he would be, and Marcus knows him, he would be fantastic.
Wouldn't he, we'd have to import him, wouldn't we?
From Plum Island.
Yeah.
I know.
Here, Dick.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye, Dick.
You won't get a visa, so.
can't go off that item.
So,
Okay,
so
why don't-
any thoughts on that? When, okay, let's
Let's give us
decide,
a drop dead date
when
so that we
when do
have
we
to-
want to do it by?
End of January.
I think it'd be nice to have,
First
and
of
I don't
all-
know who has stepped forward, and I think it's great they did. I think it'd be wonderful if we had, more than one person.
That we could
but,
pick from? I don't know who it
But,
is.
I mean, I think it's great that somebody has stepped forward, so, but I would think we'd want to give it at least a couple more weeks.
So why don't we do
Okay,
it
at our
on
next
Thursday?
meeting or 2 meetings from now?
2 meetings.
2 meetings from now? Okay. That's fine for me.
That we'll be doing it on
Okay,
February.
so that would be like February 17th or something? Or 18th, 18th, I think
Is that all right
17th
with
is a
you?
holiday.
Yeah, that works well, and then set a deadline for perhaps the Wednesday before that. Just as long, just as long as we can get that date out there, so people can know that, this.
Sounds good.
Who do they contact?
The notice on the town website says they can contact my office and fill out the committee interest form.
It's a form that.
So again, so that there's no confusion, this isn't we're not having someone that needs to be, organizing the parade. This would be just sort of the arbiter of the parade, and they could be involved in organizing the parade a little or a lot, but that's secondary.
Right, but in that run-up to the parade, it will become more important that we, pin down more specifically who will participate and what
Right.
floats or that kind of thing. So, yeah, there will be some role in the weeks or month or two leading up to the parade.
Okay.
The Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Workshop is scheduled this coming Saturday, February 29th from,
No,
No.
not this it's.
February
on Saturday,
29th.
February, yeah,
No,
but this
no,
coming
not this
Saturday.
Saturday.
No, well, with the coming okay.
Oh.
February 29th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Rick, you're more involved with us. You give us the rundown.
Sure, so, this is actually, still sound funny, but it's really an invitation event. We've tried to choose people who we believe have unique, for whatever reason, have unique understanding or perspective or knowledge about the community and where there might be issues or there might be, stakeholders that need to be taken into consideration. There are something like 65 people who have been asked to attend. We're expecting in the end probably to end up with somewhere in the range of 50 people. That's hard to say if that's a correct estimate, but, and the point of the workshop, though, is to get, this group of people together who have this unique set of knowledge about our community and talk in groups and discuss specific issues and try to highlight the issues that are most common, and then talk about how we might address some of those issues once we've defined them. So that's sort of a rough explanation of what the workshop will be about. But I guess I just did want to emphasize, so it didn't seem as though it was an announcement of a big party for everybody to go to. It really is a workshop, with a defined group of people being asked to attend.
Good. Our next item is a review of the FY '21 budget process and timeline. The most important date we have on the budget schedule here is January 31st at noon. The town warrants close and article requests are due to the town manager. So that's what's coming.
Budget's not done yet? What are you waiting for?
Yeah, we're underway with departmental and board and committee budgets as they're rolling in, and working with finance team to put that all together. And I think we're on track. mid-February and extending perhaps into mid-March. That's actually proved to be a more difficult thing to find even just 4 dates, and there's not 4 dates that everyone can agree to.
Yeah.
So it's, anyhow, that's, Annie's helping me with that scheduling piece. It's,
Can I ask a question about the ledger history thing that you gave us?
yeah, of course, that's what it's there for, yeah.
Expended.
What page are you on, Glenn? 39?
45.
45,
Well,
okay.
this is 45.
Begins on 45,
Yeah.
so I think 5 or 6 pages.
Okay.
So is this expended, obviously allocated to date? What date is this?
Well, the allocated is budgeted.
Yeah, I know that,
Yeah,
but
and
it's
then
expended it to
is,
when?
This
Don't-
report
don't-
was run on January 15th.
Okay, it just, there's no date on this.
It's on the lower left.
I didn't look down there.
Okay.
Looked everywhere. Okay,
So,
and how does, so now, so that's probably a good 6 months, how are we looking?
uh,
Anything that stands out that we need to be nervous about for this particular budget? I know there was some unforeseen expense stuff on the DPW that we took care of in the fall, but is there anything else that, you know, with a cursory look that we should be worried about?
I don't think so. I think, you know, the finance department, salaries and wages has been a bit, you know, that's trending a bit ahead of, yeah, although actually not even that much, but that's because of obviously with the turnover and the, oh, my mic went off.
Here, you can borrow this and that.
So with the turnover and the interim accountant, obviously that wasn't anticipated when the budget was approved, but that's a fairly minor variance that I think we can address with a line item transfer in the last 2 months of the year. No, I think everything's pretty well on track now. This, what you have in front of
Angus,
you is...
what about solid waste removal? Any issue with that?
No, that's actually been, with the recycling, it's actually been, you know, quite a bit less than year-to-date. It was estimated at 50, or budgeted at 50 for the year, and it's only at 15,000, or 14,600.
So are we simply way behind on invoices, or that's good?
No, we're current with invoices. No, it's just the, as you know,
That's
the
good.
recycling costs are, both the tonnage varies and the per ton cost varies, so I do think Board of Health budgeted conservatively on that in the current year. So that's something we'll look at for FY '21. You know, that's a very tricky line item to budget for, because, yeah, the tonnage and the per ton cost vary. The tonnage is fairly predictable.
And it really is funny how you look over.
It
here.
is funny.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's constant. But
But-
it's the variable cost of getting rid of it, that's so unpredictable.
But then, you know, the waste collection, that's essentially a fixed fee contract, so that's gonna track pretty much exactly with the fiscal year. So what you have in front of you is just FY '20 year-to-date, what was sent around to department heads and board and committee chairs. Also had FY '19 budgeted and expended, and FY '18 budgeted and expended, so when the budget is presented to you formally, you'll have a couple of years of complete records as well as the year-to-date. And we'll update that as close to the end of the, you know, as close to the budget preparation time as we can. And those year-to-date numbers, I tend to update a couple of times through the budget process just to keep, you know, so the reader has as current information as possible. We can run a report like this anytime. You know, this is easy, but to get it into the budget format, you know, that's the data entry. It's not a huge lift, but it's not something you want to be doing twice a week either, so.
No. I like it, thank you. And now I know where to look for the date.
I'm sorry?
I said, now I know where to look for the date. I looked
Yeah,
everywhere for that. I didn't want to happen what happened. You say, I can't find it, and you go, oh no, it's right there.
So I know, you know, we corresponded, so I guess, the overall budget process and timeline, the schedules as it's set out in front of you.
Any big initiatives, or are you done done talking about it? Is there anything?
Yeah,
you
yeah, no,
missed or
that's all I've got.
Anything like that we
Well-
should see, we should start thinking, or do you want, is it too, is it too premature?
It's a little early.
Okay, then I take back that question.
Okay, minutes
Can you just put them up?
for, minutes for the, wait a minute, that's, okay, oh, no, that's right. January 6, 2020, there was, and January 6, 2020, a meeting with Congressman Moulton, and July 22nd, 2019, and July 15th, 2019.
Can you just do this July 6th, the January 6th ones? I'm gonna abstain from them, but I'm gonna vote on the other ones.
Okay, so I make a motion to approve both minutes for January 6th.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
I abstain.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of July 22nd, 2019, and July 15th, 2019.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Nice job with the minutes.
Status update and timeline for the Middle Street Bridge project.
Okay, so we talked earlier tonight about the grant award and related to that, the ongoing work with the city on the funding agreement, but I also wanted to share with you the 25% design plans, which we just received last week from the engineer BSC. And as noted in their email, they did intend to submit those to Mass DOT today.
Angus, I'm sorry, what did you call it? The what design plan?
25%.
What does that mean?
It's a milestone in the engineering process, and an engineer could tell you, you know,
Okay.
there's certain things that are done at different stages.
Okay.
So that is a
That's just a
term of
name they
art.
give it, okay.
Yeah, it is, but it's, I'll tell you what, you know, it's often the public hearing stage for a major construction project, so it tends to be far enough along that, like, a layperson can understand what's being proposed. but
Okay.
Maybe another civil engineer would say, yeah, but what are you gonna do with this? And, well, we don't hit that till 75% or whatever. So it's a big design milestone, 25%.
Okay.
So, you know, their intent was to submit that to DOT today, so that didn't give us a whole lot of time for comment. With that said, if you saw anything in there that you had any questions or concerns about, obviously, it's never too late for us to ask questions or, so, it's just advances the, you know, schematic design, which is what you had, or actually really more conceptual design, which you had in front of you in September.
I mean, I have a problem with that.
So basically, we continue to, with the overall project schedule, just to remind people about that, the estimated milestone for full engineering and permitting is expected to take more than another year. Roughly next March of next year is about when the engineers have projected we would be fully engineered, fully permitted. So it's a lengthy process, as you know, with the many jurisdictions. One thing that might be good is to get us some.
And then building though, right after that, or?
No, that would be, that would get us what we needed to have, you know,
Funding?
firm cost estimates to get funding.
So the,
Because if, you know, if, for example, the permitting process requires, you know, certain mitigation or certain things like that that are not built into the cost, you want to know those full costs before finalizing.
just so that it's out, so when would the Mass Works money have to be utilized by?
So the timeline on that is the contract with the Commonwealth needs to be executed by the end of the fiscal year, this current fiscal year, and then the project has to be complete within 3 years after that. So that would be, you know, basically summer of 2023.
So we need, obviously a completed design, we need, put out RFP to potential construction vendors. We need to make a choice, and we need Newburyport to commit all between now and June 30th.
That's right.
So
And
there's a fair amount that has to come together. I mean, obviously, some of it's, you know, being done by the engineering firm. I mean, it's not stuff we need to do, but
not all of what you said happens by June 30th. But of this year.
okay, I guess I was assuming that that in order for either, well, I was assuming that we would have to understand what the true cost was going to be before our community next door committed. Maybe that's not correct.
No,
Okay.
no. We know, you know, generally what the cost will be, but no, we won't know the, you know, final estimated design cost until the permitting is totally complete, which is just over a year from now. And then, of course, you don't know the actual cost until you actually go out and get bids.
So we actually won't have any definitive cost information when we sign the contract for the MassWorks grant.
Correct.
Okay. And the
Thanks, Glenn.
$500,000 MassDOT grant that Newburyport has is going to be covering the design at this point.
Correct. Yep.
That's good.
Update on the selection process for the Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Building. Mr. McCarron.
We had 3 accepted proposals, and viewing all the different proposals, we went with Spencer Sullivan and Vogue. So I sent a letter to them saying that they have been, you know, approved as the, to enter into negotiations for a design contract. And so I would expect, I've actually prepared the contract itself, and then I'll meet with them and see if we could get an agreement as to the price for their services. If not, then we'd have to go to the next applicant.
Okay.
But I'm optimistic that we'll be able to reach it.
Okay, that's good news. 3, that's good.
Mhm.
Do you anticipate more than 3, or? These are pretty good.
We had a pretty good turnout for the meeting, and we had a number of people do it.
I think it was 8 firms were represented.
8 firms represented, and 3 submitted acceptable bids. We had a 4th bid that did not include all the required items, but we had 3.
Three bidders is a good, you know, that's a good number
Yeah,
to choose.
it's a good number, you know. All firms were highly qualified, they did good work. I know that I had given copies of all their proposals for the selectmen to take a review at, so.
Thank you.
This is an appropriate time, and I talked with Angus about this last week, but I haven't brought it up to the rest of the board. So there is, so what you think about it? There is a grant source available from the Massachusetts Historical Commission, and I spoke with the people at the commission, and from this building is appropriate for it. It would qualify. The amount of there's 800,000, I believe he said, for the entire state, and the maximum amount of grant that would be awarded per grant is 100, but he said that's highly unlikely, and it's way more likely to be a grant would fall in the in the $50,000 range from the Massachusetts, so state money from the Massachusetts Historical Commission. Now, the deadline for that is March 31st. The design firm would have to work with the town in order to get this thing in motion. So I'm just throwing it out there. Do we, and it would be, you have to, the municipality has to provide matching funds for this, and certainly we are doing that, and because I asked them, and they said CPC money is an appropriate matching.
Is or isn't?
It is an appropriate matching money for this. If other state money is not, but CPC money was not considered to be Commonwealth money, so it is an appropriate matching amount. The question is, do we want to add additional work for town employees on the chance of getting an additional $50,000 for the project? Now, and it has to be on, exactly, and it has to be on structural, mostly outside elements of the building. It can't be used for furnishings or rehabilitation inside the building. And we'd have to section, what's that?
There's enough things to be done to that building on the exterior.
Yeah, so I mean, we can come up with this little project would be 50,000 or 100,000, and we match 50 of it. But, so that's, I'm just throwing it out. Do we want to put ourselves in the,
Yeah, how much,
Have we seen the average?
I looked at the application, and it's the time commitment is hard to figure looking at it. It's a substantial, it is a substantial grant application, you know.
Can we say that our historical commission or committee, whatever, if they could do it on their own with this new firm and not tax any town employees at all, then yes, but if not,
They've gotten two others from the Mass Historical Commission.
Angus, did you get a chance to look at the application? What do you think?
In a pretty cursory way.
So did
both
I,
The
yeah.
application and the guidelines were, lengthy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I did report on this to the CPC last Thursday, and I told them that, we were looking at it, and it was really going to be entirely a matter of, bandwidth, of whether we felt we could carry it off. And my intent would be to reach out to the Car Post Building Committee members. We have, some good writers who are either directly involved or supportive of the project. I think if we could get volunteer support to do the overwhelming amount of the work, that would be great. But without that, it's, and there's other variables, like are there other grants? I know the Energy Committee is looking at a potential grant on a similar timeline. And, there's a point at which
you just can't do it.
You can't do it.
And we've been at that point, frankly, for my whole tenure, so I
why
think
don't you
it's.
say no now, or you reach out to them, if you feel like you can get them to do stuff, you follow through on it, if not,
Yeah,
you
that's
make the decision,
I think that would be a good
That's good.
right?
approach, yeah.
At least we tried, and if we can't,
Yep.
we can't. We
Yeah.
legitimately can't. Okay. Sounds good.
Where are we? Updates from the January 16th meeting of the CPC. Is there something we need to know about that, or?
I think the memo speaks for itself. I just,
Okay.
at the time this agenda was posted, that meeting hadn't happened, of course, and so I wanted to put this on the agenda so that whatever might come out of that the board could be briefed, and I think the memo summarizes the outcome.
Oh, you put this at the end, so you mentioned it to them, yeah, I see it down here, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Update on Merrimack Valley Planning Commission mapping work pursuant to local technical assistance work scopes.
This is just informational, but I included it because I, wanted the board to be aware of some of what's going on. I think both of these are pretty exciting. The first is, I know I've been perhaps raising expectations on the capital plan that you can expect to receive. I continue to think it will, I think you'll be really pleased with the amount of work that's been done over these last several months. And I think, so we have engaged MVPC to do some mapping to correspond with that, all with the intent of making what is a really huge amount of information digestible, readable, understandable, and I think we're on track. So we still got some work to do to get it over the finish line, but I think this will add some real value to that document.
So in this case, what we'll have is a GIS layer that is all capital projects.
Exactly.
So if you click on one of those locations on the map, you probably get all the attributes.
Well, it's not gonna, for this round, it's not gonna be built into the online MyMap.
Okay.
It could be. I mean, right now, we're just creating the data layers, but that's something, and we did talk about that, but there's a point at which, adds time and cost and.
Yeah.
And also with the capital plan being so fluid in terms of what's in, what's out, what year, it actually took a while to arrive at a scope that was discrete enough that it, wouldn't have to be redone like every week as plan changes. So, but yeah, so it'll be a physical map. It won't be part of the online mapping yet. Then the second one is.
I have to say, when I read this, I don't know what we're talking about. I just don't know what,
Okay, so, well, the overall capital program
okay.
with all the projects.
So what's that got to do with a map?
Getting a map is going to help people kind of visualize what needs to be done, especially like the water projects. That was one that, to me, was just crying out for a map. Because we've been hearing about, the water main replacements. And for those people who really know the, geography, that might all jump off the page. But I think for the average person, I think having a map that shows you where those mains are that need
Okay.
to be replaced, it just helps make it more tangible. So that's the idea. And
So where will the map be presented?
it'll be part of the capital plan that's presented,
Okay,
that my office is preparing.
okay.
So, and then.
But I mean, for like average people.
Oh, it'll be online. We can post it online.
it will be online,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. It just won't be part of the interactive My Map. It won't be a layer you can toggle on and off. So
So, okay, I guess I get it. We're not like having like 3D layers of a building and you.
no, nothing like So anything like internal to a building or like DPW vehicles, that's all just basically an asterisk that says that's listed separately. It's more for the physical elements, the
Okay.
culverts, the bridges, the.
Like the water mains down
Yeah,
Main
the water
Street
mains was
from
the big
Hawthorne,
one, right. That was the big one.
You familiar with GIS and the way it works?
No.
So basically, with GIS, say you take the outline of the town, and then you choose various attributes. Maybe you would choose, water, all water in town, and that would be a layer on the map. And then you'd have another layer that might be vegetation, type of vegetation.
Oh,
You might
okay,
have
well,
another
those
layer.
kind of maps, yeah, I get that,
And
okay.
then using the GIS database, you can interchange layers, you can superimpose layers on top of each other, so you can look at the town and you can see where, what are the contours and where are the roads and where's the water and where might I have a flooding problem because of that. So
Okay.
you can take these various layers and superimpose them all on the same map and then see how things correlate, see what the relationship is between things. It's really kind of cool when you use it because you can make.
Yeah, I get that, I just didn't see how it
yeah.
related to two like fire trucks.
Not so much the the equipment is, to me.
Doesn't make a lot of sense.
Little things, going down Main Street, little red.
So, and then the other scope is, it dovetails with the work the Historical Commission is doing with the consultant on the mapping of the historic properties. And they did a map for the first 100 houses they did last year. And so this will allow that to continue, and that does actually, that does get posted to the Historical Commission website, and the goal actually is eventually to make that more interactive. We had drawn up a scope with MVPC about 16 months ago that, the idea would be to get that to a point where if you click on a historic property, it would pop up and you could actually click and get a PDF of the actual property survey. So that's still a step or two beyond what's
You love
set up
this.
here.
Angus.
Oh, it's great,
I
yeah.
was thinking, he turned to me and said, Angus really loves it. I said, I honestly was thinking, you pop right up in your chair.
Yeah,
you
now I
really-
love maps, yeah, that's, yeah.
Okay, so what did we decide on? We're gonna have an additional meeting strictly to talk about budget stuff.
Yeah, budget stuff.
So which day did we pick?
Next Monday,
Oh,
Next,
no-
as in.
this coming Monday, yep, yep, or a week from last night, yep.
did I miss something, or did I, no?
It was,
Rick, see, that was the only night Rick could do it because
That's right.
he had a travel conflict.
Okay, so I guess I didn't follow the thread, okay.
And how do you want us to, like, is this gonna be an informational thing? Are you talking to us, or how do you want us to come prepared for this meeting?
I'll be putting together a packet, just like for a normal meeting, and.
What,
depending on-
I mean, do we wanna do it at a different time, or we do it?
Well, I think, why don't you, I would think we'd be starting at the normal 6 PM. I think there will be executive session elements to do with personnel budgeting, as opposed to, other aspects of budgeting. so.
Would you personally like to start earlier?
Um,
Can you-
I'm certainly available to, early's better,
Are you able
because,
to start early? I'm able.
I mean, let me think, I think,
That's your
I-
day off.
I
I'm totally
can, yeah.
I'm just saying
Yeah.
that offer to you, so you don't.
yeah,
you don't
if
wanna
it's all
be-
the same to the board, that works
doesn't
for
matter.
me,
I
but.
prefer to, a little bit sharper talking about budgets earlier in the day
Mhm.
than later in the day, if that means anything.
Sure, so what time, we wanna shoot for?
5?
Hey, just
Four?
get it out, was Monday a hardship for anybody? Because, I have this tentative plan to travel, but it's not absolute, and if.
No, Monday's
Okay.
better.
Is that,
Okay, okay.
yeah, does that give you enough time?
Yeah, yep.
And I would honestly think you want to have that with us sooner than later.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I know I said this, it's not the complete budget, it's those items that, anyhow, it's a
Four?
subset.
Four.
4. 4's good with me.
Good?
Yeah.
I'd rather 4. Hopefully I'm not. Good. Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
No, actually, I had something I wanted to chat about briefly. So, I think Archie and Angus and I as well are all planning to go down for some portion of the Mass Municipal Association.
Yep, I'll be there.
annual meeting.
Yep, Friday and Saturday.
I'm just wondering if, since we can't talk about this outside of an open meeting, do we want to coordinate what events, what talks, what presentations or sessions?
You can talk about that outside of the
Yeah,
meeting.
you
Yeah, scheduling you can.
That's scheduling and stuff like that, you just can't deliberate. Like, you can't say that after the meeting, you can't say, that was a
Okay.
really good thing, let's decide to do that, let's
make
implement that
plans.
next
Yeah,
week.
Well,
yeah.
you-
So, okay, I kinda understood that, but at the same time, I thought it was worth talking about.
Gee,
when-
I don't
when
think
we're
I
all
ever did
together
that.
here right now, and
That's
there
cool.
won't be another time. Is there anything there are a bunch of, is it worth commenting on anything that's gonna be there that anybody thinks, should be attended and,
I honestly just pulled open the
I
list this
haven't
morning,
looked
and
at
I
the
haven't
agenda
really
yet,
studied
to
it.
be honest.
Basically, it's good to go, Rick, but kind of the.
Well, I'm hoping.
Pick pick something that,
Pick
pick
your
some-
poison.
No, but pick something that you don't think you know anything about. That's the best. If you,
Yeah, don't go to an
don't go to
energy-
something you know about.
Yeah,
Go to
don't
something
an
you,
energy thing.
yeah.
Go to a, I don't know. It's really helped. I mean, I've went to a couple of them. I've never gone to that one. No, I went to that one years ago, but I went to Worcester once a couple of times because they try to spread them around.
Okay, well, that's fine. I just,
Sorry, I'll be
Like-
celebrating Chinese New Year on Saturday. I'm not kidding. Sorry. My nephew married a girl from China when he was working for State Street over there. So
Yeah,
he's having a big shindig.
cool.
Yeah. Make a motion to adjourn.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.